Welcome to this episode of the Catalyst Podcast, Breaking Barriers, Empowering Women in Medicine to Flourish. I'm getting personal again. This episode has been in the making for a year. As you followed along, a lot of my personal life has changed, and I've reflected on many of these pieces, and it has come together to make a clear path. But before I announce some exciting changes, which are obviously at the end of this episode, so you'll have to stick around, you're going to have to sit through some very uncomfortable statistics regarding women in medicine. And then I'll move towards the aspirational goals of why we need to support women in medicine and conclude with some exciting announcements in my personal and professional life. So buckle up, get your cup of tea, and let's get going. Hi, if you're new to this channel, I'm Dr. Laura Salyer, and I help overworked health professionals find their inner spark and spirit. I believe in a world where physicians flourish inside and outside the exam room by redefining healthcare and medicine as a self-expression of the healing arts. If you're ready to step into your highest creative power and transform your practice, then this channel is for you. Hit subscribe, and together we'll color outside the lines and paint your work-life masterpiece. Always, I like to start with a story. And I remember this story 10 years ago. I had just finished a very long morning with typical family practice bread and butter. We had conquered some diabetes, hypertension, some atherosclerosis, kind of the bread and butter of prescription medicine, but then also I was able to sew up some lacerations and I was able to install an IUD, and it was just a wonderful morning, busy, but fulfilling. But I was definitely ready for my lunchtime. And I know I've told you this story before, but it's such a common practice that it bears repeating because I'm sure I represent women in medicine everywhere. I was ready to finally close my office door. And side note, I was lucky to have one at the time because now physicians do not get their own offices, sadly. More on that later. You can also watch my old episode where I talk about healthcare and architecture and how wellness can be influenced by your surroundings. But anyway, I digress. That'll be in the show notes. So in this moment, I was tired. It was the end of a morning. I was ready to eat lunch, and I saw a name pop up on my calendar. Somebody had been worked in, and I didn't know that I had given permission or what had happened. And it was an urgent work-in. Somebody squeezed into my calendar, and I didn't even recognize their name. Now remember, if you're in family practice, you're seeing, if you're like me, 1,900 or 2,000 patients in your panel. So it's quite common you don't remember names. But I definitely had never heard of this name before. So I wasn't sure how a brand new patient could be squeezed into my already finished morning. When I opened the door, this patient was very despondent, very depressed, very anxious, in the middle, not of a mental health crisis, but definitely struggling. And this person was frustrated and wanted answers now and needed help. And if you've ever really dealt with, supporting mental wellness and acute diagnoses of mental illness, it's a lot more than just a typical 5 or 10 minute visit. It deserves attention. It deserves support, emotion, and holding space for that person. And I don't mind doing that. I thrive with that. But I was still curious why this new person was on my schedule, and I realized they had just walked out of my colleague's room. So I asked the patient, why didn't she bring up her concerns with my male partner? And she matter-of-factly said, well, but he doesn't care about that. I've tried. He doesn't have time for that. And I'm just more comfortable talking to you. I have other patients or other friends that are patients of yours. And, they said that you really listen. And I loved that. But also, that is a common burden women physicians have. We get unfairly dumped on with a lot more emotional labor. So I have some troubling statistics in front of me because we all need to hear them. And I'm going to be reading from my screen because I can't memorize stats. Math does not math in my brain. But nonetheless, this is the state of where we are now. So here it is. First, women have a lag in leadership roles. Now, despite strides in medical education, where women comprise over half of incoming medical students, we still lag significantly behind leadership roles by 34%. In other words, only 34% of leadership roles are with women. And this is from an AAMC News Update, July 9th, 2024. Yet we comprise over half of the population. Number two, our burnout scores are so much worse. I mentioned this in my keynotes that women are at risk for suicide over 400 times compared to their male counterparts. And in this study from the American Medical Association from 2023, 54.5% of women physicians reported symptoms of burnout, which are much more than their male counterparts. It's critical that we need to support this. Number three, there continues to be pay disparity and resistance of career advancement. Women physicians continue to face pay disparities and slower career advancement. In this 2020 report from the American Medical Association, it showed they had less leadership roles offered to them and continued to be paid less than their male counterparts. And finally, number five, this one hits home. Work-life challenges. It's a persistent challenge. And of course, it's complex. It's rooted in where we are in society, in our family of origin, in our habits that we've, culturally adopted, in the fact that we are in a society that is still somewhat patriarchal, but it's exacerbated by these gender and maternal discrimination that we have. I remember being in my very first interview for my job right out of the gate after residency. And I know that this was an illegal question that the interviewer asked, but I didn't have an option because I needed this job. And they wondered out loud, "Are you planning on having more children?" That's horrible, right? But I do remember, it's ingrained in our training, a female physician who was only 2 years ahead of me in residency was boasting that she finished having all her children in residency, which would make her a better candidate for any employer to hire her because she wouldn't burden the staff with maternity leave. So sometimes we eat our own, right? We aren't very nice to each other. And so we have inflexible work schedules. There still yet is no fair paternity leave. It's difficult to manage family time. And when you come back from maternity leave, your patients are upset, they're frustrated, they ask how your vacation was. It's really a hostile environment to be a woman physician in any area of medicine. And we need to do better. Again, all of these citations are going to be in the show notes. Now, let's move to why this is important. Let's go over some stats of why I'm drawn to support women. Because we have the best communication and empathy. Female physicians tend to spend more time with their patients and are more likely to engage in empathetic and collaborative decision-making. This makes patients feel more supported, and they actually understood the plans, which meant they were more adherent. And this comes from a study from Dr. Sue Mitra, MD, FACP. Think about that. Women physicians, we have that nurturing ability to show more empathy in comparison to our male counterparts. This is not hating on the guys, but it's just a fact. Most men would prefer to be treated by a male physician. Women would be preferred to be treated by a female physician. And that goes to my second study here, which said there are better and more effective care noted for female patients when they're cared for by a female physician. And they believe it is because of better communication, better understanding of the women's health issues, better relatability. This comes from the American College of Cardiology. So it makes sense. We also, as women, have lower mortality and readmission rates in comparison to our male counterparts. This was a study done by UCLA Health, which showed that we could lower mortality costs compared to our male doctors. And this is phenomenal and a cost savings for healthcare overall. So we should be supporting women physicians. And finally, preventative care. We excel at preventative care. We are more likely to adhere to evidence-based guidelines. We're more likely to establish rapport and that relatability and understanding and empathy. And again, this is not denying that there are excellent male physicians out there, but these trends are not new. It's 2024 and we are still suffering from the highest burnout rate, and it's getting worse. And with demands of women on family time, especially after a pandemic, when most women physicians were the ones helping their children with homeschooling and projects and pickups, and you get the point, right? So I have made a critical change in how I'm going to support women physicians. And how we're going to get there, I'm going to do my best in my corner of the world to help. And it's going to start with dedicating my Catalyst Studio mentorship to only women practitioners. Women physicians, chiropractors, MD, DO, nurse practitioners, PAs. Any woman out there has unique challenges. And I've noticed through the years that I tend to attract women, and I love working with them. And we've had some wonderful men as well. But the topics that make the most change in my Catalyst mentees are not like, what's the best website style, or who's the best VA to hire, or what kind of CRM do I need to deploy, or, I need more clinical knowledge and then I'll be better. No, those were not the things talked about most inside our studio time masterminds. Every Friday we get together for 90 minutes, and the most impact that creates better patient outcomes is from working through the nuances of these invisible chains that we have as women. So we talk about boundaries, we talk about empowerment, we talk about how to present yourself in unique and authentic ways, speaking with authority, all these things. Those are the things that have changed the practitioners the most so they can catalyze and transform patient lives. So why not create an even more safe container for women to collect, to come together and let their hair down and learn some of these great ways to deliver better medical care without burning out. I've also realized that through the renditions of my Catalyst Reclamation course, my keynote speaking, I talk about the AHA method, which is basically my own equation on how we can reverse burnout, how we can process burnout. And it's based in flow neuroscience, and I walk you through everything. I'll put the link in the show notes if you're curious about the reclamation course. But this is really important because I could dedicate this. All these services can be dedicated to helping specifically women excel in medicine, which means I'm making changes to my services. Not only am I going to restrict my enrollment in Catalyst Studio mentorship for women only, but I'm also going to change my patient services here in Greene County. I'm going to only work with women, and I'm only going to help women, and I'm transitioning these services to a virtual platform so I can help more women in Wisconsin and Illinois. This change also helps open up my calendar to be able to teach more at retreats for women practitioners, to keynote more so I can change more lives and really get in on the ground and help those women before it's too late. This also helps me get to know my community better in Greene County because I'm partnering with a wonderful local spa so I can continue my Botox services. Many people don't realize I do that. It's a skill I've had for almost 20 years. And I love my artistic expression. I do monthly Botox Mondays. And that was the main reason I hesitated making this transition for a while, because I've been thinking about this, really taking it to heart. How can I expose myself and become more visible and available to help women across the globe? And having this beautiful office, it's hard to get rid of. This is the big announcement, is I'm going to have to say goodbye. It's the surrender and acceptance tour that lasts longer, right? Where last year I, went through my separation and used the techniques in that AHA method, because burnout is the same as grief and it works. And then I started to realize I was clinging to this beautiful office space. You all have seen it in my TikToks or Reels. It's just loaded with color and personality and health and vibrancy. And I realized that it served a purpose. It ushered me into this new chapter 8 years ago where I opened up my functional medicine clinic and was able to grow with it. But it's time to move on. It's time to expand even more. And so I will be moving to a home office and providing virtual services for all my beautiful patients. They know that they'll still get their welcome kit mailed to them with all my fun freebies and exciting gifts that they get when they partner with me. But the reason this helps is now more working moms can access me. They don't have to drive. They don't have to come into my office. And I can move a lot of this artwork to my beautiful home office. So you'll still see snippets of that. I'm so excited. It's a bittersweet change. And that's how you know you're doing something good. There's always got to be a little bit of fear in that first step of that staircase. But I've done this before. I have opened up a whole new clinic, changed my whole life around, and I'm doing it again. And now with a deeper purpose that I feel extremely passionate about, helping all women practitioners flourish inside and outside the exam room. Chances are you have an event coming up in your calendar. Maybe it's a conference, a workshop, a team building experience, and I bet you can't wait for those speakers to drone on so that you fall asleep gently and drool in your lap. Of course not. You want a speaker that is enthusiastic, fun, and engaging, that leaves you feeling inspired. And that's why all of my keynotes and workshops come with workbooks and engaging activities. I've been speaking for years across the globe, keynoting in major conferences in Europe, America, and Canada. And I would love to liven up your next event. I'm on a mission to teach 1 million healthcare practitioners how they can tap into the neuroscience of creative flow so they can thrive in a world where burnout will always exist. So let's talk. Hit the link below in the show notes, and I'd love to learn about your upcoming event and see if we can create the most unforgettable experience so that you can teach your healthcare practitioners how to flourish inside and outside the exam room. I can't wait to talk to you. I'll see you soon. Magic happens when you work with women who start to understand that you can bend time when you have the advantage of flow neuroscience. And when you align your values and you learn how to make better, clearer decisions, your behavior changes, and you literally can catalyze a whole new culture of transformation. So keep on hanging out with me here and enjoy the changes that are going to be happening in 2025. I would love to hear what you're embracing and changing. And if you'd like to join my journey or you'd like to talk about your next event, I'm available for speaking, workshops, retreats. I have actionable tips and tools that will light you up and help you reclaim that unique goddess of medicine that you are. So thank you for listening and keep coloring outside the lines. We all deserve to flourish inside and outside the exam room. Till next time, have a great day.